Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Monday. Hope the weekend treated you well. I'm sure you saw this on hopefully you saw it on the social media feed. I don't know. My stuff doesn't get shared around a whole lot anymore, and I find it hard to believe that it's that just people lost interest, because my download numbers have not slowed down. So anyhow, if you haven't seen this, make sure you go check out all the social media feeds to if I haven't been showing up in your feed, because social media censorship's a real thing. Anyhow, this is a big interview for me, and I was a little nervous for it. I got real nervous right before it happened, but anyway, this is a guy that I've been following for a while, and I just like how he has conducted himself. He's a former Army Special Forces, more commonly known as a Green Beret. Served overseas in Iraq. I don't know if he's in Afghanistan or not, but served in the Special Forces. Also served as a contractor for the State Department and the CIA. Came back home, started a coffee company. Coffee company that I've spent a lot of money into his coffee, because it's pretty good shit. I wouldn't say that I'm a coffee snob, but I've become more of a coffee snob since I started drinking his stuff. And it's one of those companies that I really like what they got going on. So I really, unless it's just, beyond beyond justification to buy their stuff, I'll buy it, and it's nowhere near that. I mean, it's about what you would pay for, I guess Starbucks coffee or something if you're to buy a bag of it. But they put a lot of money back into the veteran community. They employ a lot of veterans, and overall, they just kind of put their money where their mouth is. It's a little company called Black Rifle Coffee. This is the CEO, founder, co-owner of the company. Guy that has spent a lot of time talking about veterans issues, and I guess promoting veterans to do their own damn thing. And one of the reasons I really like, where I thought his overlap with what I've been kind of, I don't know if you call it preaching, but like pounding the table for, is telling your own damn story. Just going out there and doing it. Here's a guy that could sit back and say, hey, the government owes me this because I dedicated my life to service, but instead he went out and did something, and created a path for many other veterans to succeed. And I wish more people would take that type of outlook on life. And anyhow, this was a really cool conversation. There's a lot of stuff I wish I could have asked him, but I only had an hour, and anyhow, I thought it was pretty cool. I was really glad to sit down with him. But anyhow, you've heard from me enough. Here is Evan Hafer of Black Rifle Coffee Company. We stole the Charlotte heifers from Randy's Sweetheart's Paw. Drinking Rose to share it, because I am shadow banned like a motherfucker on Facebook.
Why? Did you? Were you doing some nefarious shit? I must have been. I was with probably, I'm probably on a domestic terrorism list, but that's all right. I guess. So, no, I've got like 14,000 followers on Facebook, and I posted and I tagged you and I tagged Black Rifle in it. And it was up for 3 hours on my Facebook page and got 3 reactions, like three total. As son of a bitch. So anyhow, welcome everybody that's listening. I'm here with Evan Hafer, CEO of Black Rifle Coffee Company, former Army Special Forces, and host of Free Range American podcast. Big fan of your work, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. How the hell are you? Thanks for being on the show.
Man, I'm doing great. I can't complain. I mean, it's another day at Black Rifle, and honestly, it's a every day above ground's a good day.
Dude, that looks like might be the funnest place on earth to work. I mean, I know you guys are pretty good at marketing, so I'm sure you church it up a little bit, but it looks like a blast.
Yeah, I think that there are people that at times I think you can church stuff up, but for the most part, what we do is what you see is what you get. So, it's exaggerated versions of ourselves. My CEO puppet thing that I did, I'm irreverent and I make really horrible jokes, but I make a lot of jokes and I have a lot of fun with the people that work here. So I look at it as an opportunity to kind of show people what's going on in Black Rifle, because there are a lot of cool people that work here. And I just get the opportunity to be the guy that represents them, like on podcasts and, news or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird talking to you because I feel like I know you because I've listened to you for hours on end, whether it be through Drinking Bros or Free Range American or Launch
Code.
Was that Launch Code? Yeah. And I was a big fan of all of it. And it's like I feel like I've been there with you, but we've never, outside of talking on a few messages on Instagram, you don't know me from Adam, and it's that's got to be kind of weird, I'd imagine.
No, I mean, I think people have a direct connection, I think, from my podcast or social media or videos or whatever, which I think is a fairly accurate representation of me. And then I have a fairly accurate representation of my customer in my mind, right? It's like, I know there are a ton of guys out there. That's one of the reasons why I say yes to shows like this, is because you've been following us for a long time. I can tell that you're fired up when it comes to the brand and you're a great customer. So why wouldn't I take, an hour and talk to one of my customers? Like, that's super easy. One of the tertiary mission statements of this is to inspire other people to go out and, do the things that they truly love doing. I love the fact that this company I've been able to emancipate myself from government service, is what I tell people. Right. And I was stuck in a job that I didn't really like. And I've been super fortunate the last few years to be able to have a rad company full of great people. So you feel like you know me, but it's like, I feel like I know my customers relatively well too. So we're all in the same ecosystem, even though I might not met you directly, I've met thousands of our customers. So it's fairly easy for me to, I don't want to generalize you like that. I'm just saying I feel like I know you already too.
Well, it's cool. I grew up, my biological dad was Vietnam vet. He did a couple tours over there, had a couple Purple Hearts, and whatnot. And I don't know much about him. I was, I went into foster care at a, for a while, and I ended up being adopted. But I just know, like, you look back at especially like Vietnam, there was several 100,000 of our guys that went over there, like millions, I guess, that deployed over there. Something like 100,000 that died, and who knows how many Vietnamese. And you're just like, you look back through all of it, and you're just like, man, what the hell was that all for? But like, I love hearing the stories of like the camaraderie. And I wanted to be Army when I grew up, and I tried to get into the military, and I got bad eyes and whatever. I guess I hear there's waivers out there. I don't know. But we've always admired, men and women that serve the country, especially coming from, I grew up in Southeast Colorado, and at Bible Belt area, and very strong, patriotic, support the military, support the troops, support law enforcement, all that. And you kind of look at what's going on. Here we are 20 years later, we're still bogged down overseas, and I don't know what the number is now, but it was like 22 veterans a day committing suicide. And a lot of it was just like, you send a bunch of kids over there to fight people that you don't even know who you're fighting a lot of times. And I guess, like, what the hell is going on in the Middle East? You were very intimately involved. Like, can you kind of like short form wrap up like what is going on over there?
It's hard to short form wrap it, but you have to trace the history of the Middle East back to, honestly, you have a combination of things happening. So I'll kind of do my best to summarize it, which is you have tribes, obviously, throughout the entire Middle East, and you have tribal disputes. And then you have three main, give or take, four main religions. But you have two main sects of Islam. So Sunni and Shia, and then obviously Christianity and Judaism. And you have a few more. I'm not like Sufism and a bunch of other religions. So you've got hundreds of tribes, a handful of main religions, and then you have the foreign influence. But if you look back and you say, okay, well, what's really going on? You have people that don't like each other because they were in different tribes. You have people that don't like each other because they're of different religions. And then you had the post-World War I, we'll call it the Ottoman Empire, as it was carved up across the Middle East, based on, we'll call it Western ideals, is how they drew maps. So then you drew maps down the middle, separating tribes and in religions and a few of these other things, which ultimately causes a lot of problems. And then you have a massive influx of wealth from petroleum in the last 100 years. So you have tribalism, religious differences, massive influx of wealth and power. And then the cornerstone of the international economy, obviously, is petroleum, because that's how we move shit.
Yeah,
man. So you have strategic interests. So now it's not just tribal, local, religious. It's wealth and then strategic outside influence. So you have a lot of people that don't fucking like each other, with very competing value sets, and a lot of people that have a lot of fucking money and power to gain. And when you do that, when you draw all those lines and they intersect on a map, it's going to be a shit show. There you go.
And that's Syria right now, ain't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, Syria has a combination. It's you call it a proxy war in some circumstances between Russia and we'll call it NATO allies. But yeah, you've got Syria being used as more of a proxy for outside competitive interests that want to have influence in the Middle East. because it has strategic influence. But I'm so dated on my information. I try not to pay attention unless it's, I'm fairly anti-war these days. Like I spent the majority of my adult life in war zones. And I think that there are wars of choice and there are wars of necessity. And when you look at a war like World War II, that was a war of necessity. There was zero doubt that either the Nazis or the Japanese were looking to completely rewrite what we know as Western civilization.
So, and then Eastern civilization on the Pacific front, and it's. I think that's right, and I'm pretty libertarian. I'm leaning more and more towards anarchy the older I get, and it's not that I like chaos. It just like I fucking hate everybody more and more, and so it's like I don't want anybody deciding anything for me, and then and then I choose to live out. I grew up out in the middle of nowhere, but I moved to the city for a little while, and not even a big city, but big enough for me anyways. And I didn't like, I like people, but I kind of like them from a distance. And so I moved out to the middle of nowhere, and then like the world seems to be burning down around us. And in the meanwhile, like I just go check cows every day, and like I listened to reports about, everybody's pissed off about masks and shutdowns, and I was like, well, outside of like a few minor inconveniences out here in the sticks, like it really hasn't affected us too much. But I try to stay plugged in because it seems like a lot of these big decisions that everybody says is no big deal, they end up hitting us out here in the sticks hardest because nobody really cares. We grow food for people, but nobody really gives a shit. And then they tell us how to grow their food, and it's good to hear guides that kind of like you, like the veteran community, like everybody like talks about. Everybody loves the military, everybody loves the American cowboy, but nobody really wants to know what goes on, like nobody wants to know what goes into their food production. Nobody wants to know what goes on overseas, because, hey, we'll put a ribbon up, we'll fly the flag, but like, we don't want to see those images and stuff. And, so it's cool to see somebody like you get a huge platform, especially following how you guys come up. And like when I saw you and Matt Best get on Rogan, I was just like, fuck yeah, dude. I'm tuning out the afternoon. I'm gonna hear some, Rogan's gonna hear some real shit for once. And it was fucking cool, man. Like congratulations on that. That's a big deal.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Obviously he's got the biggest podcast in the world, I believe, but he's a really good guy. He's just a normal guy. So it's super easy to talk to. And I enjoy talking to people. So, besides the fact that he's got a huge platform, he's a really good guy. So it's like, why not? And he's honestly, like, I think there's a lot of people that he's affected their lives in a really big way, because he's forced people to think for themselves in a lot of ways, right? He's opened people up to different forms of information, and they think for themselves. And this groupthink that goes on in our society is fucking dangerous. Every time you have a national epidemic of groupthink that is hyper partisan, it goes fucking wrong every time in history.
Yep.
Every time in history, it's always gone wrong. And you see what's happening in our country, and you see, journalists, for instance, they're encouraging the, removal of other journalists and censorship and banning information. It's like, what the fuck is going on in our country? Oh. People think that that's just the way that they should do business.
Yeah. I wore this shirt for a reason. I was hoping you you were gonna go on a rant. So I've seen people that I like, older folks that I've known and respected my whole life, and like, you know, I may not agree with them politically. Like I've always thought they were pretty well reasoned, and you see them dipping down like my lane of conspiracy theories. They're like, no, I'm supposed to be the crazy guy here. Like you're not supposed to be following me down these rabbit holes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like falling for stuff that I could see like a mile away. No, that's just horse shit. But I don't know. But then you have this whole like Epstein thing, and which was supposed to be some right wing conspiracy. Turns out, well, that's pretty fucking true. So what conspiracy isn't true anymore? You know, like it's fucking wild.
Well, I don't know if there's any conspiracies. You know, there are obviously a lot of, I would say, conspiracies that we don't know about. The good ones we don't know about, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's just general humanity that people have to be aware of. It's like people in positions of a power people in positions of power will abuse power. So we should never be surprised. We should just be like, yeah, of course they're going to abuse power. Like that's the history of the human being.
Right.
And all of a sudden people are like shocked that people in power are abusing power. And I'm shocked that people are shocked because it's fucking nuts to me that people can turn on the radio or I sound like I'm in the 1800s, but they can, you know, flip on social media and they'll be like, oh my God, a person in power has abused power again. This is fucking crazy. It's like,
right.
You mean the thing that is more predictable than weather, you're fucking surprised about.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it just fucking, it makes me like, it makes me a little bit nuts, and it devalues what I think human intelligence for me at times, where I'm like, you fucking people have lost your minds. Like, of course, you know, there's conspiracies, and of course there are people in power doing all kinds of fucking weird ass shit. That's why you have to, you can't politicize law enforcement, for instance. You can't weaponize and politicize law enforcement because they're there to enforce the law. And it's super fucking black and white. They're there to enforce the law. And that's when you need to roll people up, because they start getting fucking crazy when they have a little bit of power. They do. And it's like, that's why you always have to, being a skeptic and questioning people in power and questioning authority, that's a good thing for society. I don't comprehend this lockstep marching that people do, whether you're Republican or Democrat, with just party line politics. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. People need to start thinking for themselves. They need to start looking at alternate forms of media. And this country would be much better off, because they get locked into these fucking groups, and they get radicalized on both. I've seen it both on the left and the right, where you're like, this is fucking nuts for both you guys. And I've just disconnected from it. I'm like, I got my thing. This is what I do. I have terabytes of me talking shit on the internet. I haven't changed. I'm just like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, people can do whatever they want.
I remember I messaged you when you were getting canceled by the right wing, which was fucking hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, it's super hilarious.
What the fuck was that? I mean, obviously not hilarious from your angle, but I mean,
no, you're like, it is. It is funny.
You're what, 20 years in the military?
Government service, like combined military and State Department and the CIA.
Yeah. So 20-year veteran, seen combat, a lot of combat, spent most of your adult life overseas. Came back, started a company from scratch with a the goal, publicly stated goal, went viral to hire 10,000 veterans. But for some reason, because of the $500 bet that you lost and had to donate to Obama and then Tulsi Gabbard or whatever, now you got Big Heavy Country or whatever slapdick YouTuber coming at you because you didn't pay for Kyle Rittenhouse to get out of prison or some shit. It's like,
I don't know, man.
Where the fuck are we going here?
Well, since then we've actually talked to a lot of those guys. Like, we've talked to that guy, Heavy Duty Country, for instance. We had him down at the ranch. He gets our position, and a lot of people they didn't quite understand what I was doing or why. Like, he's a 17-year-old kid, and as a guy that has an experience with taking life, it's a tragedy, man. I don't give a shit if anytime a 17-year-old kid has to take somebody else's life, it's a tragedy. And then they came back and they're like, well, those guys were shitbags. I'm like, he didn't know that at the time. And I'm not disputing the intricacies. I'm saying the guy's life, he's 17 years old. It forever changes him.
Shouldn't have been there to start with.
Well, either way.
Shouldn't have fucking been there.
Either way, I'm like, for me to have said, yeah, it's okay or ethically acceptable for me to profit from this event, I would never do that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
And so when I said, no, we don't profit from this, there's a big uproar in the right. They were like, well, I can't believe we wouldn't support him. I'm like, I'm not a fucking attorney. I sell coffee and make dick jokes on the internet. People fucking forget that. Like, I have a puppet.
Yeah.
For Christ's sake. Like, to say that I'm not pro 2A is just fucking patently false. To say that I'm not, a real conservative is fucking patently false. It's just like, but if you're not lockstep with everything that they talk about and all their talking points, then you're going to get fucking hemmed up. And listen, man, I don't give a shit. Like, and people always thought like, oh my God, I can't believe what happened. I'm like, hey man, I roast incredible fucking coffee. I've got a fucking great company full of great people. That didn't affect fucking jack or shit for my sales. Yeah. Did I have to clean up some dirty diapers on the internet? Yeah, I sure did. But at the end of the day, I get to walk into a company with 450 people in it and high five and backslap and roast coffee and make dumb videos with a fucking puppet. I get that. I have that life every day. I have like a dream life with a cool wife that loves me, 2 badass children, a fucking awesome company. Like, there's a lot of miserable pieces of shit on the internet and they just want to talk shit. That's what they do. That's their thing. But I already won. I already won. It's like I already won the game, man. The game is to be fucking happy and to create something cool. I think that's my game. And they're not going to cancel me. Like, they can't cancel my fucking company. They can't do it. They tried. Actually, both the left and the right both tried in fucking 72 hours and they both failed. So they can both fuck off. I'm over it.
Awesome. I love it. I also love the fact that you can troll your dad and make like very well produced videos about it. Like, that fucking cracks me up. Like, the fact that his whole birthday, you went around asking him what you should buy for Logan on his birthday. Like, it's such a dick move, but it's so fucking funny. So funny.
He's a funny guy. He takes everything so serious too. It's interesting because, I grew up with him and he's always been a fairly serious guy, but I'm not really all that serious. I'm not really that serious all that much. Like, I got to switch. Like, I can go from serious to not serious. I spend most of my time not serious, and my dad's finally realized that about me. So he's finally realized, like, okay, I'm really sarcastic. I've got a really dry sense of humor. I'm going to fuck with him nonstop. And I don't know if he necessarily appreciates it. He's just accepted it at this point. You know?
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's just cool. It's neat seeing that where you can just bust his balls, but still you have a very serious kind of warm fuzzy type article about him, and it's just cool. I love how open and like just transparent you guys have been since the beginning, and I wish more people would do that in agriculture, and it's such a. I think you're going to catch some heat. I mean, like I'm sure you guys knew that once you started, your following started to get big. Once you get attention, you're going to catch some heat. But if you just be real with people, like that's what they have to hear, And I don't know. I wish we'd see more of that on the ag side of things, but it's I don't know. It's cool. You guys keep doing what you're doing because it's fucking entertaining to watch.
Well, it's entertaining, and it's already, it builds. I hear it from business owners all the time. They're like, "Man, I wish I could do that." And I'm like, "You can. It's a $500 camera, dude. It's not, like we're not landing fucking rovers on Mars. We're just like putting ourselves out there." And Jared and I and Matt, we really haven't changed all that much in the last 5 years. People think that we have, and it's like, not really. We're still doing the same shit that we've always done. Jared and I talk every morning. Matt and I talk, like probably every other day, and we're still doing the same shit. It's like, we just want to do more in epic. When I say epic shit, it's like, we jumped a helicopter, like in flight on a motorcycle, and the internet didn't even like pay respect. It's like, we fucking jumped a goddamn helicopter with a fucking motocross rider, and it's like, that's the kind of shit that we do, and people are only going to see more and more and more of that in the years to come, because we're really, really creative people. And that's the way we like to stay creative. We to stay where we're constantly evolving the process, and people are only going to see more and more of that as the years come.
Yeah. And you put miniguns on a Prius or some shit like that.
Yeah. We put a Canon, a Vulcan.
Yeah, that's Prius. What it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the next thing we're doing is like, it's unbelievable. Like what we're doing right now in the background, like it's unbelievable. And people are going to look at it, and they're not going to understand what we did and why, but it'll be fun. I mean, it's fun to us.
Yeah. When you went to Vietnam, like before the COVID shit all went down, didn't you go back with a couple MACV guys or SOG guys?
No, we were planning that trip to go. And
that's right.
We went to Guatemala, but I'm still planning on going to Vietnam with some MACV guys, and I've been trying to recruit another guy to go with me, and I don't really know when this COVID shit's gonna get to the point where we can, get travel restrictions lifted. I think eventually it'll kind of shift to the point where you'll have to have the immunization or something like that in order to travel. I'm not sure. So we're kind of waiting for this stuff to stabilize before we start again.
Nice. Well, yeah, my little, I got a little brother from Vietnam. He grew up in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's on the streets in Nha Trang.
Wow.
Yeah, his one of my uncles served over there, so they got to they got to know each other pretty well. It was it's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. I forget where I was going. So you guys source all of your coffee overseas, right? I mean, like there's very little coffee grown in the U.S., right? It's like just Hawaii and that's it, right?
Hawaii and a few other really, really small crops. There's like one crop in California. I think there's somebody trying to grow coffee right now in like Louisiana. I've tasted the stuff obviously from Hawaii. I've tasted the stuff from California. I haven't tried the stuff from Louisiana, like Louisiana, Florida. Somebody's trying to grow it down there. I don't know if they've been successful. I think they need a little bit more elevation, but hey, you know what? Maybe they're going to be successful. Maybe they're not. But we source everything that we source is, it's a handful of countries, Colombia, Brazil, Guatemala. So you got kind of all of Central and South America. And then you have, I don't do a lot of Javas, meaning I don't do a lot of like Southeast Asian coffees just yet. I don't do a lot of African coffees, but I like kind of that Central and South America coffee. There's so many different forms of coffee down there that I could stay there the rest of my life and just roast coffees from Central and South America and never get bored. And I don't think it wouldn't get boring to the customer either. But I do like one area in Africa. So I'll drink some coffees from Ethiopia, which I really love a lot of the coffees from Ethiopia.
That's the birthplace of coffee, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's the birthplace of coffee. And so I'm a huge fan of Ethiopians, just like Ethiopian coffees, and the people for that matter. They're pretty epic as far as like that corner of the world is pretty amazing. But if I go to like my favorite coffees in the world, they're grown in Ethiopia and then Panama. Oh, okay. That's my two favorite.
How many shady characters do you have to deal with when you're like getting your coffee?
Hardly any.
Really?
No, it's you think about it. You're in the ag community here, right?
Yeah. I work in a small grower feedlot, so right. I grew up farm and ranch.
Same. It's the same in Central and South America. You go down there, and the guys growing coffee are farmers, so you don't really deal with a lot of shady people because they're labor industry folks. And labor industry folks are not typically shady. It's when you get into like finance, that's when you start. That's when you start running into shady people. You know what I mean?
See, I was thinking more like along the lines of like customs agents and stuff. But no. I don't even think the coca farmers are probably bad people. They just growing a crop, But
they're just farmers, dude.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I don't know. I've never spent much time any time overseas. I've spent, my church went on a mission trip across the border into Mexico when I was in high school a couple times. That's the most I've been out of the country. But I had two brothers that were one from Haiti, one from Vietnam. Wow. They grew up real rich. Super privileged countries of Vietnam and
yeah.
Both orphans, it's wow. Just I mean, you couldn't ask for a better life, just to grow up on the streets of Nha Trang. Mm-hmm. It's so I mean I guess I got a little bit of a cultural immersion, but it was I need to go travel at a point, but I like like what ultimately is there some sort of solution in the Middle East? Like where we going there? Like it just seems like I just hear that there you hear the media ramping up talk about how the Taliban's getting more out of control, and that's there's like a May 1st deadline that we're supposed to be out of Afghanistan, and now they're like what the fuck?
I think they're, if people are looking for a solution in their lifetime, they're never going to find it. I think you have to define what solution is, which is, if you have to say, is there going to be peace in the Middle East? No, not in our lifetime. And I should say, if you want peace in the Middle East, it's going to take a international coalition, like a international coalition. And I don't even know if it's possible then. But the peace in the Middle East is a fiction. They people like to sell us on this idea that this is going to be peace in the Middle East. In order to have peace, you have to get the participants of the war to lay down their arms. And as long as there's been tribal discontent, there's been wars in the Middle East. So as long as there is tribal or religious differences in the Middle East, so we can take the economic circumstance of like just wealth, power, and petroleum, take that equation out. We'll say maybe we can solve that one. And then say, well, how do we solve tribal and religious differences where people will assume that they're correct based on a religion and they'll try to convert people through death? Well, that's happened for several thousand years. It's not going to stop in our lifetime because people believe that they follow, their God, and their God is the right God, and the other person that doesn't follow the right God is wrong. So I don't know how you solve that. And we're definitely, as Americans, we're not going to solve that. Well, we can't afford to. I mean, that's the other thing. It would take trillions of dollars, and we just can't afford trillions of dollars of debt. There are other projects that we could work on that would be way more beneficial to us in the long run.
I agree. I think the powers that be are still gonna try, I guess, air quotes. But I think that's because there's a lot of people that got very wealthy from selling arms to the government or other governments and sustain this whole thing, whether it be arms or logistics or whatever the case may be. And it's just like the same old gangs back in power. So, I mean, it's not like they ever really left as shit for as much as Trump hated the deep state. He sure hired the fuck out of them, didn't he?
Well, that, that's Washington,
Yeah.
When I like to tell people this, it's, do you know how to work a skid steer? Drive a skid steer?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't.
Mm.
So in order to figure out how to work a skid steer, you got to go to somebody that knows how to work a skid steer, right? Washington is just like that. It's like you have to go to Washington and then hire people from Washington to even figure out how the fuck it works, because it's a lot more complicated than a skid steer. This shit is a lot more complicated than that. And I think differentiating between professional bureaucrats and the deep state, there's a lot of people that they have to differentiate between that is professional that go from administration next administration. They have a full affiliate. They'll just They just go from like this administration, but the work, it's administrations, and then really pollute what their ideology is, when then the Fed obviously tries to enforce that across the United States. That's where people get really fucked up. That's why I'm always talking about less government. Less government's a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
I like really good interstates because I like to travel at 90 miles an hour down them. You know what I mean? Those are good things.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't know. I don't know what I still haven't figured out a wide variety of utility that I think the federal government's good for.
Not much. I mean, they're good at sending you a bill. That's about it. Which, like, maybe that's what the total solution should be, is like, instead of paying your taxes or whatever, like they actually send a bill. Like, you don't withhold every month or whatever, every paycheck, don't withhold. They just send you a bill. And I bet you people would be really fucking pissed at the end of the year. Like, what are we spending all this shit on?
Yeah.
But
that would be a great, that's a great plan. They should actually just let you keep everything, and then they'll send you a fucking bill.
Well,
people would start to pay more attention.
I ultimately, yeah, that's my goal, but baby steps, I suppose.
What's your ultimate goal? What were you saying?
I said the ultimate goal is, you just keep everything you make. Like that's, I'm a firm believer in that. But baby steps, at least maybe if we can get a line item bill, but like they'd have to pass a budget first before you could get a line item budget.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, whereabouts are we, man?
We're just coming up on the hour mark.
Oh, okay. Shit. Well, we're gonna wrap that up for the free show. I'll keep Evan as long as I can here for a little bit.
Sure.
For the Patreon subscribers, but Evan, if you wouldn't mind, tell everybody where they can find you. What the deal with your subscription, the coffee company, everything.
Yeah, so you can go to blackriflecoffee.com. The best deal is to subscribe to one of the coffees. Go through, take the coffee quiz. It'll kind of show you what you like, what you don't like. I'm at Evan Hafer on Instagram. I post somewhat frequently, I guess, but blackriflecoffee.com and Evan Hafer. That's pretty much the two places. And I'm still the guy. I design all the packaging and all the designs. So everything that I do is, still me doing it.
Awesome. Well, man, I appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind signing us off.
Sure. And so what is it? Get your ass moving. We're burning daylight.
Close enough. Close enough.
What was it? Tell me again. Awesome. What was it?
Move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Yeah. Move your ass. We're burning daylight. Yeah, that's easy.
Fuck yeah.